Alright, it is time for a film vlog! Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm super excited to be here today and to share with you this video. This is going to be a day of watching movies. I'm really excited about this. I haven't done a vlog for a while, and I haven't been watching as many movies recently, so I thought, why don't we put these things together and just like have an adventure and just like go for it. So that's what I'm doing, and I am hoping to watch 3 movies today. It is still early-ish. Okay, maybe not. Maybe we gotta pick some short films, but I still think I can get 3 movies in, and they may or may not adhere to my current categories of films that I'm working with this season, which are not newly added World Cinematic Canopy, music films, films that won or were nominated for the Taurus Stunt Award, and then also my Fight the FOMO's category, which is anything that sparks my eye, anything that draws my interest, that is then just follow that energy. That looks good, interested, go for it. So that's one of the ones that was really successful last season, so I brought it back, and I think I might just keep it as a consistent, because it's just nice to watch something that's newly available, or new to streaming, or an in-year release. Sometimes I find it just like, I think I enjoy it more if I watch it right away than if I wait. So that's been a really good category. So I don't know if I'll adhere to those. I do have on my spreadsheet, I have this little section where I put the films that, like, I don't know, that I don't want to forget about. It's not a strict TBW or anything like that, but, you know, it's just sort of like to help remember, to jog my memory if I need some help in making a decision. So I'm going to take you over to the computer and we're going to take a look at that list and see if there's anything that jumps out. Let's go. Okay, so I'm on the wrong tab. This is my All Films Seen tab, and we're going to go to my 2014 tab, and here we go. So here are some of the titles that picked my eye. Oh, there's a whole category of Tubi art house film. Ooh, oh yeah, and Candyman 3. I really want to watch that because I watched Candyman 2 recently. Under Paris I saw Dune Part 2. Oh gosh, my goodness. Oh my goodness, there's so many good ones. Oh, Parasite, I haven't seen that. And D'Artagnan from Crave. Oh, I want to see how long that is. Hang on. Okay, this is something I really want to see, also because Amy from Zoe Beck was reading the D'Artagnan romances, and so that got me thinking about this. So this is a French film that came out, it says 2023, but I think it might have been earlier, and it is in parts. So I am really curious about this one, but I have one slight reservation of picking it first. But I'm going to keep that in the running. Okay, so I really do want to watch The Three Musketeers D'Artagnan, but I realized one of the things that makes it not good for this time of day, because it's still, I don't know if you can tell from the lighting, it's still really bright out, it's the afternoon, and it is so visually stunning that I want to watch it like as if I'm in the movie theater. So like lights off, just be really like in at the moment. It's got often Three Musketeers adaptations have like an adventure spirit to it, and I like that swashbuckling and like, you know, horse riding and jumping over things and like big love and big feelings and betrayal and whatever, like all those good things, right? But this one is more serious. It's like a historical epic. It like feels like how Lord of the Rings was for fantasy. And for anyone who watched fantasy movies before Lord of the Rings, they were very different, right? They just didn't have the scope that was brought to life with Lord of the Rings. So this sort of feels like that to me, like it feels like this important historical epic. And so I think I want to wait. I don't want to watch it in this lighting, so I'm going to keep looking. Okay, looking at the list again, so D'Artagnan, I'm not going to do that. Love Lies Bleeding, I'm not quite in the mood for that right now. Oh, Master Gardener with Joel Edgerton. Huh, what's that about? Alright, so here we are in Canopy, and I have to say it's pretty funny that the first thing that's noted here is Three Musketeers. Were they listening? Were they listening? Okay, so let's take a look and see. That is all left-handed word. So there we go. Master Gardener. Okay, so it is 1 hour and 51 minutes. Who else is in it? Independent drama, horror, thriller, Sigourney Weaver. Crime, contemporary film, thriller, Venice Film Festival, Canopy's Most Watched 2024. VVS Films, Paul Schrader. What is that? Alright, we're going on an adventure. I was looking at the Three Musketeers. Oh man, there's more than one person with that name. Affliction. Oh, I never watched that. I did read the movie. Read the book. Huh. That's writer. How do you find director? Writer of Taxi Driver. Oh, geez. I don't know. I do not know. I mean, it's an excellent film, but... Oh, geez, I wanted to select director, and I removed it. Wow, his screenplay was based on his own experience for Taxi Driver? Wow. Okay, that's pretty tough because I love the cast. I love Joel Edgerton. I will watch anything he's in, and Sigourney Weaver is always a yes. But I don't know. I might have to watch a trailer, and I'm not really. Trailers show so much. They show so much. So I was watching Amy's reading vlog. She totally inspired me to, or her daily vlogs totally inspired me to try and give this a shot and get back into doing videos. It has been a while. Okay, I'm gonna take a look at the trailer. Okay, I watched like 5 seconds of the trailer, 11 seconds of the trailer. I don't know if that's the vibe I'm looking for. It is more serious, which is something good to start with. It is under 2 hours, but closer to an hour and a half might be better. I don't know if I should just go for it because I want to see it. I don't know if I wanted something this heavy. I don't know. And this is the very reason why sometimes I only end up watching 2 movies, is I find it so hard to decide what to watch. Now, this doesn't hit any of my categories. Technically, it's kind of a fight the FOMO, because I only just heard about it. I don't know what to do. Okay, so I've thought about this a little bit, and I feel like if I don't watch it now, I won't watch it, because I watched a little bit more of the trailers to 28 seconds, and now I'm like, oh, okay, oh, it's kind of this kind of story. And I feel like if I don't watch it now, I won't watch it, and I do want to see it, but I don't know if I want to see it right now. This is why sometimes it is like, takes so long to watch something. I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna make a coffee. I'm gonna watch it. If I can find my knitting, I will pull out my knitting. And because I really do think if I don't watch it, and it's probably like one of those situations where for me, I find it a bit challenging because it's probably a really good film. And then I also see it's Hanway Films, which did that Michael Keaton one. I can't remember. I mean, he's in a million. Not Michael Keaton, Michael Caine. And it was so good, but it's like not my type of movie because it's like a serious crime drama heavy title, but it was so good, and I can't remember it. Oh, what was that Michael Caine movie? Anyway, I'm gonna give it a shot because I think if I don't, then I'll just resist every time I see it, if that makes any sense. All right, coffee, knitting, movie. This is gonna be the movie. We're gonna try it. Master Gardener. And also, I'll just show this a little. I can't show the trailer, but I'll just show this still with Sigourney Weaver and Joel Edgerton. I mean, I never thought I would see them in a movie together. So there is that. All right, Master Gardener. Here we go. And I found my knitting. Yay! It's a little hard. It might be a little hard to tell. It is a sweater, top-down raglan. And it's just knitting in the round at this point. It's just, I'm not, no shaping, just around and around and around we go. So I did put sort of like a faux stitch marker in, this pink one. So we'll see how far I get. And yeah, let's watch a movie. There it is. Okay, so I'm only about 12 minutes into the movie, and I have to say it's just not working for me right now. I may come back to it later, even before it expires. On Canopy, you have 48 to 72 hours, depending on the title. They changed that. It used to always be 72. Anyway, there's just been a couple of things that have been a bit eye-raising. There was a couple of things that I'm just like, oh, this just, I don't know, like this isn't really the type of film that I watched. The intro was amazing. The intro was gorgeous. I do like the actors, but it's not pulling me. But the challenge is, if I switch gears, I lose time, and I started later in the day than I expected, and I will run out of time. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take, I only have it paused right now. It's only paused. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a look at the Tourist Stunt Awards nominees and winners, see if there's something that's like an hour and a half, because that will keep me on schedule as if I watch this entire film. And if I can find something that's available, then I'm going to switch gears. I'm not even quite into like feeling like an action movie right now, but at this point I just want to reestablish the habit of watching films, so what I watch is not that important, but it's just there's so many options. So yeah, so I'm going to take a look at the Tourist Stunt Award on the spreadsheet I have, see if something jumps out, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so switching to my Stunt Awards tab, and where are we? All right, whoa, that's too far. What do I want to do? I wish one day I will figure out how to do screen capture. So what I'm looking for is something where the running time is not that long. Okay, I watched that one. So we're looking for something that's like an hour and a half. It's the first one. Oh, look at all these long action movies. What's this? Oh, I watched that. Did I watch all the short ones? Okay, so there's The Courier. It's an hour and 49 minutes. That's on Hoopla. Firestarter. That's a possibility. What's this one? Becky. What was that nominated for? Specialty stunt. Demigod. Ooh. Specialty stunt and stunt woman. Demigod. What's that? Set in Germany's Black Forest. Okay, hang on. We gotta take a look. Okay, let's see if we can find it. And I mean, Demigod is not a wholly original title, unfortunately. Format. Movies. I think it's this one. 2021. Oh, I don't want to. Black Forest. Okay, let's do this. I don't know. Oh, but okay, I don't know. I don't know. The Courier is also here, I think. I'll just borrow both. It's the last day of the month. I'm going to borrow both of them, and see, this one might be a little bit more my style. I haven't borrowed anything this month. So, okay, so it's either like action movie, this is sort of like a transporter situation, or some kind of like horror, Black Forest, something. I don't know. Very intense start. Very, very, very intense start, but has my attention. I can see one reason why this movie is a bit shorter is because they did one of those things with the intro where like they show a whole bunch of newspaper clippings and that tells you the story so far or lets you know a little bit about some of the characters. I haven't seen that done in a while. I'm sure it's still done a lot. And it does do one thing, not that, but there was something different where it started. It definitely, now that I think about it, the beginning was definitely like the pre-credits, really shocking kind of stuff. That's not, we're not going to get back to that for a while. That was 75 to 85, maybe 95% of the way through the film. I don't like that as a writing device, but you know, then they threw the credits in there and they didn't even say like 2 weeks before or whatever. You just got to infer it. But anyway, Gary Oldman, he's in it. I mean, and so far I'm enjoying it more. I don't necessarily think it's necessarily a better film. I don't care about film quality too much. I mean, I think I'm a little different than a lot of other film lovers out there in that sense. I don't feel, ironically, I don't know how much value there is in talking about quality. That's a bigger conversation for another day, and I have lots of thoughts. Anyway, I am engaged. It's 7 minutes in. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen next. There's a lot of violence, without question. There's a lot of crime. So these are both crime heavy, but this one, because it's more flashy, it feels less realistic in some ways. The other film was much more serious, and I wouldn't even know it's a crime film except for that I watched 28 seconds of the trailer. So I think it's a good switch. We'll see how things go. And yeah, here we go. More movies. More movie. I haven't finished one yet. Okay, so I'm about 30 minutes into The Courier, and I have to remember to look out for what could possibly be what the stunt is that it is nominated for, or nominated or won for. So for this particular film, it had one nomination or win. I think it was a nomination, and it was for specialty stunt. I don't know what that could be. I thought it would be, given it's about a courier, someone who's a motorcycle courier, I thought it would be a vehicle stunt. But it's not, it's specialty. So I guess that could be anything. So I will be on the lookout for what could be a specialty stunt. Is one of the things I like about doing this sort of challenge of watching films that for this particular award is trying to figure out what it is. And then afterwards I always go look it up and see what it is. I will say the film is a little, like it's a little all over in terms of sort of tone. Like some of it's really serious, some of it's a bit more like shocking, some of it's got some biting humor to it. It's already had some surprises, yeah, but I'm curious to see where it's gonna go. I've watched an hour. It's about an hour and a half. An hour and 39 minutes and 55 seconds. Okay, so it's an hour and 40 minutes, so I have an hour and 10 minutes to go. So we're going to continue watching The Courier. There's like nothing to look at the screen that I paused at. All right, well, I'll be back. Okay, so I finished watching The Courier, and I realized I didn't give much context for what this was. was. But that's because I didn't really quite know. I knew it was an action movie. I knew it was nominated or won a Taurus Stunt Award, and I knew that it probably had a female protagonist, but that was a little hard to tell, actually, because sometimes posters, like, that was what I was going with, and who the lead cast member was. I actually don't, like, the courier, the person who plays the courier is a woman, and I actually always keep my eye out for female-led action movies, because we just get so much fewer of them than male-led or ensemble cast, and I love action movies, so I always keep my eye out for ones with women in the lead. And this one did have a woman in the lead, and it is, I am not quite sure, she was in, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce her last name, she was in the Quantum of Solace, Olga Kurilenko, and I'm trying to find a good, so that is, ooh, that's not a great angle. So she is from, yeah, as I said, Quantum of Solace. That's definitely the first thing I saw her in. Wow, she looks like she's got quite a varied, oh, November Man. I haven't seen the November Man yet. That's from the press for that. There's her there with her with Pierce Brosnan. Okay, now we're just looking at the photo reel. Anyway, so she is the courier in this. And then it's interesting because there's kind of like, I did enjoy this. It was, but I will say it was very violent when it was very violent. There were a fair amount of action sequences, and some fair amount of hand-to-hand stuff, fair amount of vehicle stuff, and I'm curious to see what the specialty stunt is, so I have to remember to look that up. I have three things that feel like they could be possibilities. Two sort of involve a vehicle, so I think it's the other one, and that's how it got on my radar, is that it was up for a Taurus Stunt Award for a specialty stunt. So this follows a woman who is a courier for, they're not very, they don't give you a lot of info as to what kind of jobs that she does, only that she's very good at what she does. And then the sort of where the story that comes to play is that we have a crime boss, which is Gary Oldman, and there is someone who is going to testify against him, and that ends up being sort of like the package, like who the person ends up being the asset, I guess you could say. But it does have a fair amount of twists and turns. There were some things that it was unexpected in terms of the story, which is interesting because it's not in action movies you do see this plot a fair amount, whether it's The Transporter or The Professional, and I'm sure there's newer films with examples that are similar, where you have someone who's very good at what they do, and then they sort of end up in a situation where maybe they are not, where we're not sure as the viewer whether they're going to do what we think we're going to do, because it's a little slightly different. And that is sort of the scenario here, that it's slightly different, it's slightly more gray. Not gray, it's just slightly different than I described. Not that any of that was untrue, but it's just like part of that is just sort of like to give you intrigue, to not know where it's gonna go. So I thought that was interesting. And then also in this, I forgot, so Gary Oldman's also in this. Amit Shah is also in this. He plays the witness, and he was quite good. I'm not familiar with him as an actor, so he was in it. And I'm actually curious to who the rest of the cast was, because there was definitely someone who was familiar. Two people, yeah, William Moseley. Okay, I thought that was him from Chronicles of Narnia. He plays, whoops, that's not a good shot. From Chronicles of Narnia, so he was also in it. Oh, he was in the Royals. Oh, is that what I know him from? Wait, was he in Narnia? Yeah, he was Peter in Narnia, and he was in the Royals. I never finished watching the Royals. That was actually a pretty good TV show. And then we also have Dermot Mulroney in this, and then Callie Taylor. I could not spot. I'll do the photos. So she was also in it. She plays Gary Oldman's daughter, if I'm remembering correctly. And I couldn't place her. And looking at this, I can't place her. So One of the things that was challenging about this one, though, is that I feel like it was like the premise is familiar but different, so that can be engaging and exciting. But I felt like there were some sort of like jumps in terms of that we'll understand what this is, or this is a kind of thing we see in films like this. Like there was a time deadline to give it some oomph in terms of it. Things had to be resolved by this particular time, and so the time kept on being referred to over and over again. And I was like, at some point I was like, why is there, like, there was one situation I'm like, yes, okay, they mentioned this time frame. And then I'm like, but then it felt like a bit of a broken telephone in terms of, because there's some intrigue and like who's allied with who and who's working for who kind of thing. I was kind of like, actually, why do these people need it to be on this time? And then I'm like, oh yeah, I think it was because of this. And I'm like, but I don't know if they really care. You know, so there was a bit of broken telephone, I felt like, and I felt like that happened in a couple of situations where there was this sort of like, it wasn't even really shorthand. It was like, I felt like in terms of the storytelling, sometimes it didn't tell us, because we've seen so many movies like this, that we'll understand that we need some tension here, you know, and we need some emotion here, and we need some distance here. So there would be like these scenes that had this, like there was this scene that had this like emotional like conversation in it, and it came out of like left field, because it was like most of the characters are very cold-hearted, you know, or mean, or don't even have dialogue, and even just like the villains are all very like, just, they don't even care about the people they're on the same team with, which feels always, to me, that always feels a bit weird, but it does happen in a fair amount of action movies. So, you know, we end up having her being this slightly reluctant, or is she protector to the witness as a framing device? But it's like, but and Gary Oldman's the crime boss, and Dermot Mulroney is the lead in the law enforcement agency, and then William Moseley is the trying to get the problem solved, shall we say. And they were never like in the same room together, you know. They were so that felt kind of like, you know, like all of their almost all of their scenes were in like one small setting. And like sometimes I don't notice that as a film watcher, but after watching many movies, like I'm nearing 5,000, like it's like, okay, well, so you had the actor for like X amount of time, and they did like 90% of their scenes in this one setting, and like maybe one or two scenes somewhere else, and it just feels a little like it just feels like a little disconnected when there's no interaction between those actors, and then all of the action sequences are done mostly without dialogue, maybe a one-liner here or there, you know, and that kind of thing. So it's so it felt a bit bumpy in that sense overall, but I did enjoy it. But I will say, I think I already said this, I will say that it was quite violent, so this is not going to be for everyone. And like I will say, the makeup department, wow, they had a lot to work with, because there was a lot to do in terms of the wounds, shall we say, the wounds, and were well done, but you know, quite quite a lot. But I did enjoy it. Actually, when I pulled it up to, this is the title frame in the thing, I had to run through the beginning of the movie, and I actually quite like the score of it. And it runs, well, usually the score runs throughout, but I realized, like, just listening to it for a little bit, I was like, oh wow, I actually do like the score. I like the music. I like the tension it brings. So it was enjoyable, you know, not going to be for everyone because of the level of violence. I imagine it was rated R. And I thought some of the action scenes were really good, but they weren't necessarily my favorite, and I felt like some of the ideas were just like, oh, this is a cool idea, we're going to add it in here, but it was like, where did that come from? Like, literally, that prop that they're working with, like, how did they get it? Why did they get it? Why are they surprised by what's in it? Is it not theirs? Is it someone else's? Where did it come from? How did they get it now? I felt like none of those questions could be answered, and I kind of felt like it wasn't that important, but there were a fair amount of instances where there were things like that. that. So anyway, but it was enjoyable. One more film scene for the Tourist Stunt Awards nominees and winners challenge. So I'm excited about that. I am going to look up what it was, and I'm trying to, did I write down? Yeah, makeup and special effects had lots to work with. There were, as I said, there were 3 potential things, but that could be for the Tourist Stunt Awards. So I'm going to say what I think my, I should have gotten my little spoiler card. This is, okay, so I'm going to say what I think it is, and I'm going to hold this up in the screen until I stop describing it, and then I'm going to do a clip where I actually like look up what it is and show the screen of the Tourist Stunt Awards. So that's, these 2 things are going to be spoilers, and then I will, so those 2 moments are going to be spoilers, and then when I come back, I will choose the next movie. Okay, so now I'm going to describe what I think is the scene that had the specialty stunt. So the scene that I think was the specialty stunt was, there was a fire lit under a car. A person comes up to the car, is set aflame, and is thrown back against the wall. So that is my bet for what it was nominated for specialty stunt. There were 2 other instances. One is another person being thrown against a wall, and the other was actually someone got, and I hope it wasn't a person, but there was a run over by a car moment, and it was that was, I think, the first big special effects thing, and it was disturbing. I was not expecting that level of violence and blood and gore and realistic, and so as I said, the makeup department did quite a job. So okay, so but I think that what was actually nominated was the fire stunt, so let's go take a look and see if that was the case. Okay, here we are at the Tourist Stunt Awards site, and they changed their layout, so I will try and find, I think it was from 2020, and we're looking for specialty. Okay, it is specialty stunt is not, oh, there it is, specialty stunt. The Courier description, here we go. Man is ratcheted back from a car explosion while doing a full body burn. Yep, that was it. The performer had a small pyro bag detonate in front of him and was pulled back approximately 18 feet by a nitrogen ram while doing a full body burn. The car explosion was shot separately and put together, and the shot of the ratchet and burn. CGI added for flame since the performer's wig came off during the stunt and showed their silicone mask. Oh, wow. That's interesting they include that. So the nominees were right here. We have Neil, oh, I don't know how to pronounce that name, Neil Chapelhow and Freddie Mason. So that was the stunt. So I'm pretty excited to say that I actually figured out what the stunt was. Yay! So I always try and make a little bit of a game of it. And yeah, so I think what I'm going to do is because it is right at the end of the month, and because I haven't used any of my Hoopla borrows this month, I think I will try and watch Demigod. It's not quite dark enough that I think it will be enjoyable to watch like a full-on horror movie, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at Hoopla and look and see if there's anything on my favorites list that is in the time range that would be short, because this always goes a little bit longer than I expect, and I don't know, I guess I'll flip the screen and then we can look together. All right, so I'm going to look at my favorites and then movies, and I'm looking for something hopefully that's like an hour and a half. I think these are all stunt award ones. Oh, Medea's 1 hour 37. An exploration of alienation and depression within a family's inner lives and their environment. How did this get on my radar? I think it was like newly added in Just Watch. It's quite a different tone. Okay, so that's a possibility. I think these are all Tourist Stunt Award options. I might want something a little, oh, Problemista. How long is that? An hour and 45 minutes. It's got Tilda Swinton. She's always a favorite for me. Charlotte Rampling. I love Charlotte Rampling. 1 hour 35. Self-destructive path that could spiral to... Yeah, I don't know if I want self-destructive spiraling... Ooh, Picture of Dorian Gray. 1 hour 51. Oh, this looks earlier than 2002. Yeah, we gotta IMDb this because I don't think that that's... Sometimes Hoopla doesn't have the right dates. Let's see. Dorian. Oops. See, 73. 73. I knew it. That photo really looked like not... Gosh, would this be a good one? I have to make lunch. It's a little long, but I feel like watching it. All right, let's go for it. All right. And lunch.
A man's destiny, some say, is written in the stars. All he'll ever do, all he'll ever love, all he'll ever be. The whole of his life is inscribed in the heavens, some say. Others claim to see the truth in other places.
Okay, I'm less than like a minute in, and I am just over the moon. I love this gothic vibes, sort of dark shadows kind of feel. The music even might be from either Dark Shadows or Star Trek, I'm not sure. There's just a familiarity of this sort of time frame of like late 60s to mid 70s that I just really love. I think it's when 70s get... in the later 70s, things often get really dark, but this particular time, especially with this sort of gothic or hammer horror type thing, I don't know why, but I just love it. So anyway, I'm like 1 minute in, and I'm like, this is exactly what I feel like. So here we go. More The Picture of Dorian Gray. Wasn't necessarily on the list. It was on my favorites, but yeah, so we're gonna see where this goes. Okay, I have finished watching The Picture of Dorian Gray. The Picture of Dorian Gray from 1973. This is an adaptation of an Oscar Wilde work. I have read it, and I have seen other adaptations. I saw there was an adaptation in around 2008 or 2010. I think it was 2009, actually. And the character's also in the TV series Penny Dreadful. And was there a Dorian Gray in the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen as well? I think there might have been. So anyway, this is a character, an idea that comes up in a lot of paranormal and supernatural and horror and gothic types of work. If you're unfamiliar, the basic idea is that the character has a portrait painted of him, and it bears the weight of both his physical changes in his life and also the starts to have changes of the moral choices he makes start to appear on the painting as well. And so it's kind of this like psychological, philosophical question is part of it in some ways, of the sort of like, if you don't show the impact of the things that you do? Do you feel like you can do anything? You know, do you feel guilt-free if you're not, like, what's the right word, like caught in a way of it? So there's sort of like that moral philosophical question is in there, but it also, this film itself opens with pondering, and I don't know if they're directly quoting the book or not because it's been many years since I read it, but it opens with the question of, are our lives predetermined, and if so, by who? And if not, then what makes them, are like the, what, I can't remember the rest of that quote, but like if they're not predetermined, then, you know, what is the case? And I think that's an interesting question. Again, that comes up in a lot of supernatural stuff, a lot of paranormal stuff, a lot of urban fantasy stuff, that question of sort of like fate versus choice, you know, and I think those are interesting questions and conversations to have. But I would say that I don't feel like they went through a lot of that there. I felt like this one started off really strong with that kind of stuff, with the ideas, with the tone. And there is one of the interesting things about Dorian Gray as a character, and this is something that we don't see, I would say, all that often, is I do feel like he's kind of like a male ingenue character. He's a bit like, he's a bit malleable, right? If he, like the whole nature versus nurture thing, like if he you know, was hanging around with different people, would he have made different choices or not? I don't know. So, but I feel like he's this sort of, in a way, it kind of feels like he's this empty shell, and, you know, and not even a shell, or maybe he is a shell, or is the portrait a shell? I don't know. But like in this representation, in this interpretation, one of the challenges I had with him is that, and actually most versions of this, the character, there's this sort of lack of, I don't know, morality, you know, like this lack, but not only that, it's like, it's kind of apathetic. And I feel like that makes sense when the whole story about the picture sort of comes into play, once he realizes that the picture, you know, bears the burden of his sins or actions. But I feel like he's like that already, and that's a bit strange. So there's that. One of the things that I did genuinely love about this one was really, and it's really strange because one of the characters, I think it was Harry, I wrote it down somewhere on my very sketchy notes. I think it was Harry, who was not a good character. He was definitely the character that just kept on pulling Dorian to the dark side, basically, and sort of like the side of like, you know, you could do whatever you want. Like one of the quotes I had from Harry was, "The easiest way to rid a temptation is to yield to it." And I don't know if that's a direct quote from the book or not, but wow. But Harry had all of these great lines, and I don't know who the actor is. I'm trying to get my tablets just like spinning, not loading, so I can't say who the actor is. But he was quite good. Like he was that cad character, you know, he's suave, has, you know, in some way, shape, or form, like ends up always like every winning over all of the ladies, I think usually with money, because this is also one of the things about both Dorian and Harry, is that they have money, they have standing. This is set in like 1890 and then goes forward from there, I think. And so there is a sort of fearlessness for both of them, that because that they have money and standing, they can sort of get away with anything. But the thing with Dorian, I feel like he starts as such an empty, not empty, but just like flat kind of persona, that the moral question of like, if you don't bear the weight of the things that change you, are like, what happens? Or do they not have to be visible? Do they not have to be provable? Is the weight on you alone enough to change you, or does that change you in a different way? All of those questions are interesting, and most of the things that Harry said were horrible, but he had some really, really, really good lines, like it's only the people who love once who I call shallow. I mean, so many good lines. Like, do I believe that? I don't think so. I think that's a really, like, pigeonhole type thing to say. But, like, he just had so many good lines. He really reminded me of, like, from The Young and the Restless, Victor Newman, like, that kind of character. But not as, like, that kind of presence, but Victor was always classy. Victor was always classy. I read his memoir, the actor's memoir. Anyway, I'm getting off topic here. So yeah, so it has some like real like style to it, but there's a lot of stuff that was also not great. The gender stuff was not great, and I did feel like I didn't quite understand how and why Dorian shifted his perspective from being sort of like to going to not really caring about the feelings of other people. That felt very strange to me, and I don't know if it was the picture, if it was supposed to be a supernatural element. I will say they don't talk too much about supernatural or paranormal type of elements. It's just a bit more of a philosophical question. Like there's not like outside of the picture, there's nothing in the world beyond the mundane, and so it's just, you know, so it's more of a philosophical as opposed to a paranormal supernatural type thing that they're talking about. So where was I going with that, if anywhere? Oh yeah, so there was tons of gender crap in this. Like none of the women are treated well. Most of the women that they encounter or see or seek out are like whether it's high society women or women in the brothel, they're only interested in one thing, and that's repeatedly, you know, often specifically stated. And so that's not great. You know, it is something that was made like 50 years ago that's representing something like 130 years ago, but still it's present. And there were also two things, one of which was off screen, and I'm not 100% sure that I'm correctly interpreting what happened, but if I am, like, it's beyond, like, all of the other things that happened. Like, that's, like, and they don't show it, and they don't state it very overtly, but I'm like, that seems, like, way too far for a situation, so I was concerned about that. And then there also is another situation about an age gap situation, which again, when you're talking about something that's like 130 years ago, there's one thing, but I'm just like, no. there's some, actually both of the things were like age related, and one was not shown, so it was hard to tell, but I was just like, oh, hard stop. That's just like pass. It's not even pass. It's not okay. But I think also one of the things that the film is trying to show is like, when is too far? You know, like there's some things that definitely that happened were too far, but in other instances, it's like, when is it going too far morally? You know, where is the line? Or is there a line if you feel like you're not going to get caught? Like that sort of question. So I always think like, I really appreciate, even though there were lots of challenges, but I do feel like I like a film that is saying something, you know what I mean? I like a film that is posing a question, that is wrestling with something. I find that interesting and engaging, so that was a definite pro. One of the challenges, though, was that, and I know I mentioned this when I did my little clip right after watching it, hopefully that made it into the vlog, but one of the challenges, though, was that I did feel like it very similarly felt like Dark Shadows or Hammer Horror in a certain sense. And there was actually an actor that was on Dark Shadows that was in the film in a supporting role. I'm like, Willie Lewis, like, what are you doing here? But the big challenge was that they actually used the music from Dark Shadows. Like, initially it felt just like, oh, that's familiar, like that's sort of like of the time, and I thought maybe, oh, is it Dark Shadows, is it Star Trek, is it like, what is it that I'm and then eventually they used it often enough that I know the sound cues. I'm like, oh, and now it's gonna go da 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 da. Like I'm like I watched over 1,000 episodes of Dark Shadows. I know what the music sounds like. So anyway, so that was a bit of a distraction in a weird way. So I don't know. So like, it's one of those things that I'm not usually a fan of films that have a character that's so morally, not even neutral, not even gray. I don't even know where you would say he falls. And it is, I think, a challenge for an actor to portray someone that we care about or are invested in when they seem to not have moral lines. But for me, the big challenge with this presentation of it is I felt like we went from sort of like an empty shell to, like, you know, having feelings and caring about other people to not really caring. And they did give some threads of why and when, like why that arc and it's related to the painting, but I wasn't super buying it. So I think it really is a challenging role in terms of acting to get all that variety, especially when some of it can be really sort of like distanced and not really caring, and as opposed to you can also go another route, which is like more tormented, which I think is an interesting choice as well. And I don't feel like that's the choice that was gone. Like it was a little bit, but not too much here. It was more apathetic, which is something that doesn't resonate with me like at all. So anyway, but I'm glad that I picked it. It was quite, sometimes I find it quite fun to just sort of like not think too much and be like, is this interesting enough for me to watch? And I'm like, yeah. So, and I really do like watching book to film adaptations, although I like, it's been well over 10 years since the last time I've read The Picture of Dorian Gray, and I think I might have read it twice. I would have to check my notes on that, but yeah, but anyway, one more film down. I think I'm gonna go like right into the next movie, which is Demigod, because I stopped and started and you know, I had my lunch, and then I'm like, I always like to like do the dishes and make one more tea after lunch, so I thought maybe I wouldn't want to do that, but I always do, so I stopped and made another tea because that just is the way that I am. So anyway, so the clock is ticking and it is getting later, so, but if I start Demigod right away, it's still gonna be late when I'm done. Anyway, so that is how I felt about The Picture of Dorian Gray. Let me know if you have seen it, if you have seen other adaptations beyond the sort of 2009 one, Penny Dreadful, and still, I'm gonna have to look up The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen because I think that character was in there. I think it's a great character, and it's usually an interesting character to add to an ensemble cast. I, in particular, really liked Penny Dreadful. That was just a great series. The first season in particular. After that, it took some interesting turns, and some of which I loved. But it was just a cool. I just don't know why. I wish more people talked about that series. And it was on HBO. Here it was on Crave, which is like the movie channel, the movie network, TMN. Now it's Crave, like the Canadian version of HBO, but I don't remember what channel it was on in the States. It might be one of the ones that isn't around anymore. But Penny Dreadful was like, if you like supernatural mystery, like not necessarily mystery, but like intrigue and like high, like intense situations, Penny Dreadful was great. It had some really cool interpretations of the characters, and I have to say, like a lot of other interpretations, for me, don't stand up against the choices they made. But they had an entire series, like they had 3 seasons to go through things, and that's a lot more than one film that's like 2 hours or less. So anyway, all right, going to get on to Demigod. And so this is another one that is from the Taurus Stunt Awards. I do think it's another one that was nominated for Specialty Stunt, so I'll have to keep an eye out for that, and I'll get my spoiler card ready for next time for when I share what I think it would be, what is the specialty scent. So we shall see how it. I'm a little sad because it's gotten a little late, and usually I don't watch horror movies like really really late. Usually I watch them sort of like when afternoon becomes evening, and as you can probably tell, that's well past now. But anyway, we're gonna soldier on and get things going, and Demigod is up next. Okay, so I finished watching Demigod. So this one was, Okay, so what's it about? Let's start with that. What's it about? So we're following a woman and her partner who go to the Black Forest in Germany, to a cabin that her grandfather owned, and he left her everything when he passed away. I do want to make note before I forget, there is a fair amount of animal. There's a couple of characters that are hunters, so there's a fair amount of animal stuff that might make people uncomfortable, whether that's like just I don't even know what those are called, like stuffed heads that are mounted on the wall, to actually more like in between stages of life and death and stuff like that, kind of stuff. So I know that that can be upsetting and bothersome, so I wanted to mention it. So if that's something that's not gonna be a problem, maybe give this one a pass, because it is sort of in the film sort of throughout, because her grandfather was a hunter, and there is a neighbor who's a hunter, and so it's definitely, it's part of the story. It's just part of the story. So okay, so this one, yeah. So her and her partner go there, and then pretty quickly things start to go a bit awry there, and then she remembers the stories that her grandfather would tell her about the forest, about what lived there and what was there, and she thought they were silly stories. And but the hunter who lives next door, or neighbor, is a little more not sort of thinking it's a little troublesome to sort of make light of such things. Well, I'll put it that way. I actually thought he was really good. The guy who played the hunter, the neighboring hunter, his acting was really good. So, but, and I was actually a little surprised, because I did end up looking it up before coming to chat about it, that this actually is an American film. A fair amount of it is in German, with some of the characters that speak German, but the woman and her partner, they speak English, and someone else refers to them as American, and they never say otherwise. And she moved away, but she only ever visited her grandfather, and then stopped visiting her grandfather in Germany. So it was a little, and there was some vagueness as to what happened and why they stopped going, and so what happened to her mother, and there was a falling out, or was there, and also, like, I think for me it's a little strange that it was never notated what happened to her father, because her grandfather passed away and left her this cabin. But I feel like a line should have been thrown in there, like if there was a falling out with the father, or if her father had also passed away. It just felt a little strange to sort of bypass that. Anyway, that's a bit sort of small change in comparison to the whole thing. So in terms of that, and that storytelling wasn't super important, because what was a little more important in terms of the storytelling was sort of this, like, what's going on in the forest, is something going on in the forest, and it has this atmosphere, of we start getting into more of it, sort of gets into the plot, so I don't want to go too much into it. But I gotta say, there was a lot of things in here that they use that are some of my least favorite themes or tropes in horror movie. I do feel like there is a bit of a rising trend in sort of like folk horror, to draw on sort of like ritual and stuff like that, and create a horror movie around it. But I feel like it's I gotta say, for me it really does feel like it's a bit of like taking something, warping it, and making it an entertaining horror idea without, like, and I find that sort of like misappropriation and too offensive depending on the film and the subject matter. This film, I'm not quite sure exactly what they were trying to say. I don't know a lot about the Black Forest, so I don't know if they're actually trying to draw on real stories, but to me it didn't feel like that. It felt just like, oh, this is a creepy setting, let's create a story around it. But I don't know, maybe they did, I don't know, I didn't read up on it, and I don't know a lot about it. So, and then in terms of like even the title demigod, They actually never used the term demigod, and I did look up the movie, and I was actually trying to see if there was a different title, like maybe this was like a German film and this was the translated title, but this is the title, so, and it's an American film, and I'm kind of like, they never say, they often refer to a name in particular and a title in particular, but demigod is never part of it. So that felt a little strange to me. So I will say there was some really good creepiness in terms of the settings, the sound. I thought some of the cinematography was really interesting in terms of the light and stuff like that. But I felt like I was a little unclear on sort of this isn't quite the right word, but like the mechanics of sort of the beliefs that they were portraying. And I feel like, again, it wasn't sort of, it felt like it was not even that they needed to sort of be specific about the specifics, because generally speaking, it's a horror movie, and like these people are like, and then there's like a group doing something and it's not good, so it doesn't really matter the specifics because this is just the way so it just felt like a little, I felt like, because and it's a weird line you have to go, especially with horror, because you want to have that mystery and intrigue, but I do feel like it's helpful that at some point you get an explanation or you get information, and there was some, but not a lot, on like why what was happening. They did say that, I will say, like it was explained, but I was like, to me it just felt like, let's just use this trope and throw that in there, and I just feel like it's a little I'm not a fan of that, as of it using sort of ritual, and whether it's paganism or witchcraft, and just being like cultivating a horror movie around it. I just feel like it's irresponsible, to be honest. So that's how I feel about it, and so it wasn't a huge hit for me from that sense. I did like the protagonist, and I thought the acting of the neighboring hunter guy was really good. I thought there was some interesting ideas. No, I didn't love the ideas, but I thought there were some interesting scenes, interesting settings, but there were some things to me that didn't make sense. Like if you're saying that this character is that, why are they using this? Why do they need this? And like we've seen this sort of whatever this is more than once, but it's the first time these people are seeing it and they know what it is, but it isn't that, and it wasn't that when the other time we saw it, so I don't really get it. So, and just to be clear, hunting was definitely a theme throughout, and that's not one of my favorite themes in horror movies, and so it sort of puts together multiple things that I'm not a really big fan of, and so there was not a lot for me to connect with, and there was a fair amount of things for me to have an already disconnect on. So unfortunately, it wasn't a big win for me. And then I do think, but I did watch this because it was nominated for the Taurus Stunt Awards. So I am going to share what I think is what it actually won for, and I think I will leave off with that. So if you don't, and I'm going to put up this spoiler sign when I'm talking about the spoiler, and then I'll share on this. We'll go look up and see what it is, and I think I will leave this vlog there because it has been, I feel like I should come back at least once just to sort of wrap things up. Okay, so I will come back a little bit after that. So I'm going to share what I think the stunt was, then we're going to go look at it, and then we'll wrap things up. All right, so now I'm going into spoiler zones in terms of what I think the stunt was for this film. It was a specialty stunt, and there really was only one thing that I think could have been it, and actually it was a fire situation. There was someone ended up being lit aflame, and spins around a bunch and then runs off screen. So I'm pretty confident that that's what the specialty stunt that was nominated. There was a couple of pretty intense fight type scenes, with one with a sword and one with a knife and a couple with a crossbow, but I don't think those felt like the level of stunt type thing then it would be. Oh, I do want to also say that I thought some of the makeup in this film was quite good, just like the Courier, there was opportunity for some really intense makeup for some of the situations that required quite an altered appearance. And this one did have some interesting stuff with lights, but I didn't always super understand like how much of what we were seeing was supposed to be mundane, how much was supposed to be supernatural, how much was there where was the line? Was it because it was a certain time of year, like that was notated, but like I felt like it just wasn't clear enough or mysterious enough in terms of the mechanics is the wrong word, but that's what I keep on thinking, but sort of like the mundane versus the paranormal, supernatural, magic, ethereal. Like I didn't feel like there was enough, because there were some things I'm like, that feels very mundane to me, so I don't understand why this is considered beyond, or is it beyond, or what is so that didn't quite work for me. Anyway, so I shared what I thought was a stunt. Now I'm going to switch and we're going to look up and see what specialty stunt it was nominated for. As it turns out, it was actually nominated for 2 things. It was also nominated for Stunt Woman, so this actually had 2 nominations. I actually think the stunt I mentioned is probably the same stunt that I would think would be the nominee for Stunt Woman. So we're going to take a look. This is from the 2022 Tourist Stunt Awards, and I'm going to look it up now. Okay, so here we are, going to 2022. Oh, I don't think it loaded. Yeah, no. Okay, yeah, here we go. Okay, so we're going to look at specialty stunt first, because that's the one that I talked about. Okay, here we go. Wow. In the scene, a witch is set on fire by a child. Yes, that's it. The witch ignites, runs around the back of the barn into the woods. Traditional fire prep burn was used for the sequence along with gelled carbon X under natural fiber wardrobe. Okay, and then it goes on to more details. The burn lasted 6 to 7 seconds with the second burn of 12 seconds. The use of the witch's cap made it possible to get a great dynamic burn without the need for added flames or digital effects in the post. Nominees: Tim Bell and Elena Sanchez. Yeah, it was quite extraordinary. All right, now let's look at Stunt Woman. I think it would be the same. All right. Yes, wait, that was ringing. Okay, overall stunt performed by a stunt woman. It's the same people, so I think so. Yeah, a witch is set on fire by a child, so that was it. So that got 2 nominees in that particular year. So there you go. And the same nominees, Tim Bell and Elena Sanchez. All right, let's wrap this up. So, I actually don't have sort of like good wrap-up thoughts because I'm still like in the moment. I am really happy that I ended up watching 3 movies, even though I did have a rocky start, and I did turn the first film off with The Master Gardener, which I may still go back to. I have to go and check and see how long I have that rental for Canopy, because it just was a little too serious. And I think, I don't know, maybe serious is just a tone I'm not a big fan of. Dorian Gray was actually really serious, but it was very melodramatic. It was very over the top. Everything was important or not important or decadent or boring or I don't know. And I like that a little bit more. And, what was the first movie? The Courier was definitely over the top. There was a lot of action. There was a lot of violence. There was a lot of fighting. And then Demigod was actually more serious. It had a more serious tone to it, high stakes. It had, I've already talked about it. So it had some challenges with it. But so did Dorian Gray. There were some things that I just felt like were just too far, but I think that was part of the point. I don't know. I was going to say out of the 3, which was my favorite, but I don't know. I actually do not know. I think they each had things that, well, to be honest, I know it wouldn't be Demigod for sure. So it's between Dorian Gray and The Courier. Do I need to pick a favorite? I mean, I'm not a big fan of picking favorites. Am I? Do I know? I don't know. I like doing top tens and stuff, but this is only three. I'm not sure. I would have to think about it a little bit more. I am really happy that I got two films watched for the Tourist Stunt Award nominees and winners. They were both nominees, both specialty stunt, which was interesting. And they both, oh, I don't want to say what it was, just in case that's a spoiler. So it was interesting to see that there was a theme, not a theme, there was a connection there. It's not a category I've followed before, so I wasn't quite sure what to look for, but I do really like sort of like watching the movie to see like what's going to be the specialty stunt or what's going to be the best fight and stuff like that. That's been a really fun part of watching films that have been nominated or won awards for that. And I got two, and they were all, I think it was interesting. I ended up watching everything on Hoopla, and I think that there is something to that. I think because there's so many services, there's so many films, and sometimes like when you have a constraint, it just makes it easier to make decisions, like, you know. So and I totally forgot to get back to The Three Musketeers. I was gonna do that and then I didn't, but I did watch one book to film adaptation, which with the picture of Dorian Gray. So I don't know, I ended up seeing three movies. That was the ultimate goal. Hopefully I'll continue to be consistent in watching film. That really means a lot to me, so I'm happy that I got that part of it done. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed going along this adventure with me. Let me know if you have watched anything recently. Let me know if you have sort of like a sense of when to turn a movie off, like, because for me, I did do that with the first film, and it definitely made the day longer. I did try and pick shorter titles, but Dorian Gray was a bit long. But anyway, like, I don't often turn off movies, but I think I'm probably going to do it maybe a little bit more. I don't know, but it's just like one of those things. It's like, will I go back to it? Do I want to watch it? Do I want to look into it before watching it? You know, but honestly, I just really like Joel Edgerton, so I just generally will watch anything that he's in. But I have a feeling that the tone of this film, there were just a couple of things I'm like, there was just like a couple. Once it hit, I think, three things that I was a little like, then I was like, okay, let's look for something else. So maybe that's it for me. Maybe I need three things, and it was only 20 minutes. It doesn't mean it's not a good movie. I mean, it's not that. It's just, it wasn't a good fit for today, and I just feel like it might be a sort of genre or subgenre that I'm a little, like, already seen a lot of, and I don't know that I need to see more, even if they're really good. You know, and it might not be really good. I don't know. How valuable is it to say it was good or not good? For me, that's not the most important thing. Like, I'd rather go into, like, if I enjoyed it, or if I got something from it, or if it, you know, was, I don't know. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation. But I got 3 movies watched, so yay me, really thrilled about that. Also really great because it's right at the end of the month, so it's like getting a few more in before the month changes. So I hope that you enjoyed this adventure, and hopefully we will have some more. So let me know if you have watched anything recently, if you have any film challenges that or lists that you're working through. I do find it helps, and it definitely helped today. So all right, thank you so much for watching. And of course, I forgot something. I forgot to share how my knitting went. So I didn't knit a ton. You can see. I mean, this is just like super exciting. So this is the sweater I'm working on. This is the back of it. This little pink or salmon is where I was. So, oh, it's hard to show because it also curls up. So I don't know. I got like 10 rows in, maybe. It's not tons. Oh my goodness, this is not easy. This is not easy to do. So yeah, so I got about, I don't know, 8 rows in this sweater. But I mean, it's just, at this point, it's just round and around and around. It's a raglan top-down sweater. So the sleeves are on hold, and I'm just knitting the body in the round. Oh man, you can really see that line from when I went from back and forth to stocking that. I can never quite, I find it so, like you can just really see the line of where I was going back and forth on the needles to stocking that. Because when I do it stocking it in the round, I feel like it looks really good, if I do say so myself. But when I do it back and forth on the needles, I knit weird. I just knit weird. I have to, what is it that I do? I can't remember. I can't articulate what it is that I do. But I know when I purl weird, and so I have to knit through the back. But there is a bit of a difference. That's why I much prefer to knit in the round if I can, because I find it ends up turning out nice and even. And then even in the back, you can really see the difference, how bumpy it is. But I do feel like over time, I've heard that you can, you know, get a wooden spoon out and just like give it some flattening power. And I'm sure over time it'll even out. But anyway, I'm happy that I got progress on that. I haven't done any knitting for a long time. And I only got a few rows in each of the movies because I usually have a tea or something or a snack, and then, or one of the times I had my lunch, and then I knit for a little bit, and then I lie down and, you know, and then relax. And it's quite a staged thing, not staged like it just seems to so many things end up being, if you do them often enough, they turn into habit, and that has become a bit of a habit. And that's fine. I mean, I get some rows in, I get some snacks in, I get some rest in, I get a movie in. I mean, it's all good things when you really think about it. Anyway, so that is how my knitting went. I think it would be good to get a smaller project going, because this one I started quite some time ago, and but I want to make a smaller project of something that I would use, and I'm not quite sure what that would be, hence not choosing anything. Anyway, so there is really it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. It was fun to do. It's been a long day. I am ready to have dinner because it's super late, and I will be back with another video hopefully soon, but we shall see how long it takes. I don't know. These always take a while to do. But yeah, it's nice to get back to doing some videos. So I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching.